Hi everybody, I'm MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
We just got back from the premiere day of Batman v Superman, or of course...
As we've been calling it, not quite Justice League.
Yeah, which is exactly what this movie is, to put it in the least spoilerish terms right up front. I don't know, what do you think? Just straight out full-on spoilers?
I'm all for full-on spoilers.
Alright, so long as you are okay with full-on spoilers, that's
we're warning you now. Spoilers will be in this.
What is something we can say before we get too spoilery to just give our general opinion about it and then go full-on spoiler?
I can say this. If you've been reading a lot of the negative reviews that have been coming out lately, they're mostly true. Let's start with that. A lot of the complaints about pacing, about characterization, about the length, how it feels actually sitting there in the theater are mostly true. It's very much spectacle heavy once it gets to the spectacle points of the movie. If you're a diehard DC fan, you might want to sit through it. I think we came to the conclusion that it's at least worth the one view. At least one.
If you're a DC fan, I don't know. If you're just a cinema fan...
If you're a cinema fan, you might not want to sit through it.
No.
That's probably a legit thing.
Because now I think we're going to slowly start to get more and more spoilery as we keep talking, but I am less familiar with a lot of the comic material. That's not to say I've not read any, but I'm less familiar than you are. And as a movie, cinematically speaking, the way it is put together, I don't find it to be acceptable.
It's pretty crappy.
It's pretty hard to sit through as a movie. Or if I'm forcing myself to be like, alright, these characters, they're their own characters, I guess, because they're not comic characters, and I still don't understand their motivation for why they're doing what they're doing, even if I'm having to build it brand new from scratch.
Well, yeah, because in a lot of ways the movie is trusting, and I'm using that very loosely, trusting the audience to kind of know who these characters are, but I think to a certain extent there becomes this over-reliance on the audience knowing who these characters are and what their actions and motivations are supposed to be, so much so that the movie doesn't do its job in a visual medium of telling you this is why a character is doing what they're doing. Because, you know, straight up, from the beginning of the movie, the one character who has the most motivation, thought process behind doing anything in the movie is Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
Bruce Wayne is probably the only character who gets any character motivation throughout the whole of the movie.
And you can tell, just from previous media that's come out, that was probably what it was going to be. And in fact, like, we went to the Alamo Draft House, one of the many locations here in San Antonio, and they do pre-shows there if you get there like 30 to 45 minutes before the show, and it was just about nothing but Batman related.
It was like 90-95% Batman clips with like Superman clips that were there because he was with Batman.
Yeah.
So that was just the slant of the theater, but then you get into the actual movie, and we had made this assumption on the show, on our weekly show about, well, this looks like Batman's movie featuring all these other characters.
That's exactly what it is.
Pretty much, yeah. Because the movie starts off with the thing, like, I guess we're getting into it now.
Yeah.
Right? The movie starts off straight out the gate. Hey guys, you know Batman's backstory? Well, here it is, right up front in the first 2-3 minutes. And for the most part, if I'm gonna give them any credit, all the credit that I do give the movie, it's always with a caveat. Like, okay, it's this, but then you added this on the end, so you almost had it, and then so you start off with, okay, you're getting Batman's origin story out of the way up front. Yes, we have to see Martha and not Jonathan, because that's Superman's parents. Thomas and Martha Wayne get shot again. But at least you're getting it out of the way up front, so it's kind of that balance thing there. And you're dealing with the whole, oh, Bruce was very sad about it, and then he found the Batcave, and then it goes into this weird sequence, which you, me, and another friend of ours were sitting there and we're watching this, and the bats surround Bruce, which we've seen before in other media, but then Bruce begins to levitate off the ground.
His arms up as if he's
ascending.
Bat Jesus over here.
Yeah,
and we're just like, what is this?
Like, we almost walked out of the movie right there until Bruce's narration clarifies that, oh, this is a dream sequence.
And I sort of...
rooted in memory.
And there are keep in mind, there are so many there are 4 to 5 dream sequences.
Sparse throughout the whole movie.
Mostly out of Bruce.
It's like 4 Bruce, 1 Clark.
That I almost feel like 1, it relied too heavy on dream sequences, and 2, this did not need to be a dream sequence because all of that actually happened up until the point where levitating bats was a thing, and I'm just like you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
You really did not need to go there. I don't understand why that imagery was important.
Yeah. And then, of course, we're transported back to Metropolis during the battle between Zod and Clarkman, because it's still hard to call him Superman in this, and we'll expand on that as we get through it. But we see it from Bruce's point of view. Bruce gets off a helicopter right when the attack is going on, when the Earth Mover is doing the dubstep attack in downtown Metropolis, and he's racing into the city. I don't know what he thinks he's going to do, because he's just Bruce Wayne, but I guess it's to show some heroism on his part, to want to go in there and try and save somebody, because he's got a Wayne Financial building there in downtown Metropolis. He's trying to talk to people, some guy who we're not sure exactly what his relation is to him, I guess a business partner or something of that.
I love how he tells the guy to tell everybody to get out of the building, and then that dude then proceeds to not get out of the building himself. He kind of was just still standing there watching the things happening around him.
Well, see, I'm over here in basic movie logic, that seems like a thing a person would tell somebody on the phone is, hey, tell everybody to get out of the building. But logic, which plays in a lot to my feelings about the movie, is should you have to tell somebody to get out of the building? Because if there's other buildings that I can clearly see falling down around me, I might just want to get out of the building on my own.
Yeah.
Who's dumb enough? I mean, maybe if you're in shock or something at what's happening, then yeah, you have to listen to somebody tell you get out of the building. But at that point, I think it would have been pretty obvious I need to run. But it gets to the point where apparently Zod and Superman, they get tossed through the building, through actually the Wayne Financial building, I guess. Zod's heat vision tears it to shreds. It comes down very 9/11 style, and I'm pretty sure that's what they were going for.
Right.
And, Bruce is just up there looking at him, getting all angry, seeing another character who we'll see later, he basically loses his legs from the knees down, very graphic there. Not our graphic, thinking ahead, but it's just okay, yeah, this is the horrors of what Superman's done. But it's the thing about it, if you think about it for the rest of the movie, that's the one case where you see the direct effects of something Superman did, and every other direct effect isn't direct, we're told about it.
Right.
We don't see it again for the rest of the movie, what's actually happening. The direct effects of Superman's actions.
There was talk in this courtroom scene about how people in this village were just dying, and I was really kind of confused about that.
Right, because I'm
we never saw what the trouble was going on in whatever this village was. We did see Lois go be a reporter.
Yeah, this is kind of the next scene that happens is Lois goes out somewhere in the Middle East, I guess.
Yeah, where some sort of terrorist is doing stuff to people, which, by the way, we never actually see happen. We never see the horrible things that this terrorist organization leader is doing to people, so I just have to be told, oh, he's a bad guy. And then it turns out that Lois has, unbeknownst to her, been part of a CIA mission.
Like a sting operation.
To take this bad guy down, and then people somewhere in some place that we have never seen have died, and now Superman is being blamed for it because he came all the way out there to save Lois.
You find out later that Lex planted people on the security team to make it... they had to explain this way later, and it kind of didn't make sense in retrospect, that Lex set this up to make it look like Superman killed more people than he did. But it doesn't make sense when actual logic takes place, because if you checked with these people, you'd see they died of bullets.
Yeah.
But Superman doesn't use bullets.
Yeah, I was really confused about that too. Who in their right mind would have placed blame on Superman because of bullets?
Right, exactly, because... What ends up happening is, Lois is held at gunpoint, but she obviously knows, Clark is going to save her, so he bum rushes the guy who's holding her, and he, throws him through 3 walls, and the way the movie presents it, I was kind of thinking this, I don't know, I didn't ask you about this after we got out, that maybe when he busted through the other 3 walls, there were people on the other side of the other 3 walls that he killed by accident?
That's the only explanation, but again, we don't see it.
Yeah, and then we just cut to some... other villager lady saying, "Oh, everybody was dead. It was terrible," but we don't. Like, the movie doesn't make it clear enough. Like, that sounds
like a completely and utterly separate set of events.
Like, the movie didn't make it clear enough who we were referring to. Are you talking about the bullet dead guys, or are there some other dead guys that we missed?
Yeah, because she's talking about horrible things happening in her village, and we never saw a village. We saw a terrorist camp.
Yeah, like, if there was a village around, I never saw it. Maybe that's something that's going to be on the extended Blu-ray cut, but yeah, that could have helped right here, clarify that situation. And, you're talking about these Senate hearings, so we're introduced to Senator Finch, Holly Hunter's character created for the movie, and she's, very much got it out for Superman, wants him to answer for all the things he's done, very much a politician. And to me, looking at all the trailers going into this, I'm like, she's expendable. She's got to be expendable. Mm-hmm. Because, like, more often than not, the character that you wrote in that doesn't exist in the source material, you can do without him.
Yeah.
I just got that feeling from it. But then, through her, we're introduced to Lex, just Jesse Eisenberg as Lex. And there's been a lot said about his Lex going into this. A lot of the reviews are really harping in on his performance.
He's a different kind of Lex who serves a different purpose. I don't like him, but that's not to say that he doesn't, hold the same position and do the same things that he kind of needs to do, except I don't necessarily understand his motivation half the time.
Well, yeah, because the thing about it is, he's a different Lex. Like, this is probably the nicest way I can put it, but maybe you guys can understand what we're saying here. He's a different kind of Lex. Some people say he's too different, he should have been a different character, who does Lex things, which he should be doing, because Lex Luthor's supposed to be having these machinations and plots to try and, make things better for him or defeat Superman because he has some sort of complex. But the problem is, throughout the whole movie, he's doing things that Lex Luthor would do, somebody with that name would do, but they never fully flesh out why.
No, I never understood, like, is this a power game? At the beginning, it kind of seems like that's what it is. It's a power game to him. But then, by the end of it, he's got this real specific focus on really bringing down Superman for reasons I don't understand.
And the thing about it is, like, there's plenty of comics they could have drawn from, at least in the writing portion of it. Like, Jesse Eisenberg himself didn't have to read a comic if he doesn't want to. As an actor, that's his choice. But as far as the writers are concerned, they should have written in, some of the many stories about him having the human god complex about it. Like, he talks about it.
Yeah, either it's a human god complex, or it's like, oh, Superman specifically did something to really piss me off personally, and that never happens in the movie. There's no, like, personal business between the two of them up until Lex kind of starts it.
And yeah, like, he makes mention of it with Senator Finch there in one of the two scenes he has with her, and it kind of gets very philosophical, but I don't feel it grounded enough to him. Mm-hmm. Like, he's saying these lines, but I don't feel that they're natural to him.
No, they're just words out of him, and I don't understand why he's giving philosophical speeches. What I wanted to know was, okay, why do you feel so attached to these ideals? And I didn't get a sense of why that was. He made some mention about his dad. I didn't really get much out of that relationship with his dad.
Well, they mentioned his dad a few times up front, but then it's like, where does that go? Mm-hmm. So then we're showing a little bit of footage of Gotham City, which now, as the movie puts it, is just like across the bay from where Metropolis is, and I don't think there was really...
I didn't think it was that close, but...
No, that's the way they describe it. Like, there's like a small...
No, I mean, like, in previous pieces of media.
No. They're like...
I didn't think they were neighboring, like, twin cities like Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah, that's how the movie makes it out to be. Yeah. Whereas, before I'd like, oh, it's like a 3-hour drive. Like, they weren't hella far from one another.
Like on the same coastal front, but not the same state, maybe?
Yeah, like, I always pictured it as the difference between, like, lengthwise Philadelphia to D.C. It's not a big thing. Like, you can get there pretty quick if you need to.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But here they're like, oh, it's a 5-minute drive to Gotham. It's no big deal. Mm-hmm. But, we're in the middle of watching Bruce interrogate... we don't watch the interrogation. We're just told later that's what was going on. I guess there were human trafficking issues going on there, because there's a bunch of people locked up downstairs.
That's what it looked like, but Batman saved those people, and now Batman is this fiend who, like, brands his enemies. So to leave a calling card of sorts.
Yeah, and they make mention that apparently now that he's branding people, when the people who've been branded by Batman go into prison, the brand gets them killed. And
this, I think, is the only Batman, specifically in Gotham Batman sort of thing we ever see him do. And even then we don't hardly see him do it. We see the tail end of it, we see him hiding like a bat up in a corner, and then he just
like,
gets
for what
the
it's
hell
worth,
out
it's
of there.
filmed very Batman-ish.
Yeah.
Like, it felt Batman-ish. Like, okay, I don't really have a complaint. Like, he was there interrogating a guy, he went a little too far, he didn't kill him, but, you know, he's got this big old brand on his chest, you've seen the commercials. He's hiding in the corner, and then when the cops see him, he dodges the shots and then gets out like a wraith. And I'm like, no, that seems like a Batman thing to do. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But then what we end up finding out later on down the road is he wasn't doing it to stop human trafficking. He's tracking some sort of a shipment of something that he doesn't exactly describe right away, but the film ends up explaining that later on. And Alfred's there, you know, trying, I guess, to be sort of the voice of reason, like, hey, you started branding people, what's up with that? Mm-hmm. And he's like, whatever, I do it.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing out of him. Like, if there's a slip, there's a few slips on Ben Affleck's part as Batman, because again, yeah, he gets a lot more. I want to say he's got more screen time than most of the
easily.
characters, and he's got better characterization. But that doesn't mean his characterization is perfect by any means. Mm-hmm. This Batman drinks, as opposed to the comic version, who, you know, tries to abstain from it or fakes it. This Batman does kill.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't kill a lot. Like, that was the thing, you know, some of the reviews...
If it just so happens that he needs to roll his car over somebody else's car, he's totally cool doing that. And if people are in it, then whatever, they were in the way. And then there's one dude that he blatantly stabbed through the heart. And,
See, like, part of my brain wanted to be, like we're jumping ahead there, but part of my brain wanted to be like, oh, he just pinned him to the wall.
That's
like,
not what happened.
No, he stabbed that guy in the heart.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, okay, I have to put the Burton caveat on this. This is a cinematic Batman who doesn't have a problem killing people. Great. All right, we're dealing with that. If you can get past that, otherwise Ben Affleck's Batman isn't bad. It really isn't.
Probably the best characterization in the movie, and that's sad.
That doesn't save the movie.
No,
it
absolutely does not save the movie, because I don't think that this is a very good cinematic piece of work.
Yeah.
Really.
But basically what Alfred ends up on his own deducing out of Bruce is that, hey, you're not doing this because, you know, you're going after criminals like you normally do. This is about Superman again, because apparently since, and this goes back to the characterization for the movie, that Bruce is so focused now on making sure that he has contingencies in place for dealing with Superman.
I know that Bruce, like, has some mental issues going on, and always has ever since his parents were killed, but this is pretty, like, nutcase focused.
In that sense, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like, that part of the character has been explored in comics before, so here having it focused on Superman, and then subsequently as a tease for later on things down the road, having files on the other eventual members of the Justice League, that's a Batman thing. So again, I gotta give a point there, like, that's a Batman way of looking at things. And he realizes the thing that he's trying to track down, Lex is getting a hold of it, and that leads to the party scene.
And here's the weird thing, I thought that, you know, Lex sending out invitations to all these different people. One, I don't entirely understand why he invited Bruce to his party. In fact, I don't even know what this party was friggin' for.
It was for a library or something.
But Lex is standing up there talking about gods and stuff, and we don't even hear his entire speech, and his speech goes in a weird direction, and then he kind of stumbles over it and then decides to just walk away. And then, but, I mean, maybe he wants Bruce there because he's like, I want rich people to rub shoulders with, so he kind of makes sense. So then, why was Clark there? I don't understand.
Well, Clark was there covering something. Well, that's weird too because...
But it was an invite-only kind of party.
Well, see, the thing I'm trying to figure out is that, you know, just to jump back to things on the Metropolis end, let's jump back a second. Clark and Lois are living together now. You kind of have to deduce that because...
But that's the thing. I'm having a hard time deciding, oh, were they living together or does Clark just happen to have a key? You know, they don't say.
Well, yeah, they don't explicitly say.
In.
They've said in supplementary material that they're living together. But it's like, yeah, you could have taken that one way or the other. You didn't even have to really address it. And then Clark is starting to develop these opinions about this Bat character in Gotham, the way he dispenses justice and whatnot, and I'm like, what in Clark's characterization, or non-characterization I should say, makes him start to make judgment calls about other people when he himself is still the same wishy-washy Superman from the end of Man of Steel?
And does not get further character development hardly at all in this movie. And this was another weird thing, while they're having that conversation between the two of them at that party, kind of bickering back and forth about, well, my superhero is better, no, my superhero is better, and then Lex comes in, and he's like, Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne. I'm like, Lex, do you have a clue who Clark even is? He's a reporter. Why are you so excited about the two of them meeting? This does not make sense to me.
Yeah, again, the logic thing. Why, if you had just added one line explaining why Lex knows who Clark is.
Yeah.
Other than something down the road, that doesn't really serve.
Did Clark become really famous in this span of time for being a really good reporter suddenly out of the blue? Because, hey, that might have been a good thing to elaborate upon. He became
what kind of reporter he is. Yeah, exactly.
He became a really notable reporter or something. That would have been kind of cool, because otherwise I feel like that line is there. That and the subsequent, we've seen it in the trailers. Nice firm handshake. You don't want to pick a fight with this guy. I feel that is only there for the audience, and totally not for the characters that are actually in that scene.
No, absolutely not. And then,
which is really lame.
And then on top of that, like we said, they're all there at this party. Oh, Diana is also there, Wonder Woman, and she's there kind of skulking around in the background.
Why does she have an invitation?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Or she might not have even been invited. She might have just invited herself, whatever. Point being, Bruce is there on a mission. He's trying to hack into Alexa's servers, and he's got, an earpiece, and he's got Alfred in his ear, telling him, okay, this is the part of the building you need to go to. Again, a Batman thing. But it was just kind of disconcerting, and I actually can't fault Snyder for this. The fact that he's got Alfred in his ear, and Clark can totally hear him.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, well, I guess that's something I never thought of before, that if, he's got an earpiece for Alfred, even if, it's a low frequency or something in his inner ear, Clark could still technically hear it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I guess he's got you cold there. But then Clark doesn't really do anything with that information. That's the thing. He goes
other than kind of Bruce. Silently gloat.
Well, he follows Bruce to see him kind of do things, but then again, that was the least stealthy I've ever seen Bruce. Bruce, you're blatantly going into the server room,
well, it was
and
more
at least
like
three people know you did it.
It was more like he decided, I'm just going to walk down here with authority and people are not going to question it because that's what I'm doing. Because that works sometimes, We've had these discussions. Oh, just act like you know what you're doing and people will just let you do it.
Yeah, but it didn't work for me here. It felt weak. Because he was there.
And oh my god, he gets caught by this other lady, Mercy, who works for Lex, and he's like, oh, I just, I was
couldn't find the bathroom.
Looking for the bathroom. Bruce's best detective line there, his best ninja line was, I couldn't find the bathroom, and he got out of it with that?
No.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not buying that. I would have been, at least. And this is the thing that, a lot of the movie has. There's one joke, there's maybe two joke lines in the whole movie. Yes, the whole thing is mostly humorless. But here it's you could have added a little levity to that. Oh, I was just trying to check my email. That would have been a little funny because, you're surrounded by computers. Because nobody's going to buy the bathroom excuse when you're there kind of going... he's got his hand in the cookie jar at that point. And it doesn't play. And, Clark wants to confront him, but then Clark sees something on the news, oh, there's a disaster halfway across the world, I need to go save some people.
That's the only time where I really know what day it is in the entire movie.
Yeah, because they say it's Day of the Dead celebrations down in South America.
So that means it's November 1st.
Okay, fine.
Then after that, how much time passed? Which is really weird, because at the beginning of the movie, they're giving all this on-screen text about when things are happening, and then 18 months pass, and then it tells you where you are, somewhere in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
And then there's never any on-screen text displaying any other sort of information ever again. And so after the news reports, there's this fire on a Day of the Dead celebration, then time passes, And I have
it's
no...
an undisclosed amount of time.
I have no grasp of how much time passes after that. And in fact, there's... I know it jumps ahead a little bit for me to say this, but, you know, there's a span of time where Clark, like, goes away for a little bit, and it's presumed that he went to go, like, hike mountains or whatever, and he's gone for a while, and somebody says to him, "Oh, you came back!" What, was he gone for a long period of time?
How long was he gone? They never say.
Yeah, they never say. And I know that's jumping ahead a bit, but we'll get back to that.
But yeah, going back to the party, Bruce, you know, he goes away for a little bit to let his little device that he plugged in do its job, and then he goes back down and realizes it's not there anymore. Diana took it, and then completely just jacked it and ran off with it.
Did they ever call him Diana on screen?
Yeah, they call her Diana. Well,
they called her Miss Prince.
No, actually, you're right. They call her Miss Prince. I don't know that anybody
No one
calls her
ever
Diana.
directly called her Diana, ever. No, they just call her Miss Prince.
Yeah, and nobody ever actually refers to her as Wonder Woman either.
Nope.
Not once. And actually, like, I'm thinking about it, the word Superman gets thrown around, or the title of Superman gets thrown around a lot. I think Perry White is the only person to say the word Batman. And that's kind of a weird thing. Like, you would figure by this point, you know, somebody, like, people have heard the term Batman, even if he's, you know, this skulky shadow of the night. No, you've heard the term Batman by this point. If he's been around 20 years, word gets around.
Yeah.
Even if he's not out fully in the public eye, like, no, you've heard of Batman, at least. So I find that one hard to believe. So yeah, like we were saying, you know, it shows a spot in the Indian Ocean. So I was thinking about this during the off-season in between Man of Steel and this movie, of, well, where are they going to get kryptonite? Because obviously you can't have a fight between Batman and Superman without kryptonite. And Snyder actually left a back door there. When the world-changing machine that the Kryptonians were using were affecting parts of the Indian Ocean, they were making the parts of the world that they were affecting directly underneath, like Krypton. So directly there, by where the machine was, some kids find some kryptonite. And then Lex gets a hold of it, and this ends up being the thing that Bruce Batman is after. He needs this.
And Lex wants it too, but what's her senator or whatever? Finch is like, "No, I'm not going to let you have it, Lex." And then Lex makes it his mission to be really pissed off at her for the remainder of the time that she's alive.
Even though some other senator gives him, like, full access to all the Kryptonian stuff. Like, well, we can make that happen for you. But it's like, what do you get out of it?
Yeah.
Like, what were you...
What was that guy... Yeah, what was that particular senator going to get out of it? Just that he was going to get... perhaps Lex was going to give money for future campaigns or something, but that was not elaborated upon.
Like,
so
that's us having to make an assumption.
Yeah, I have to guess.
But yeah, he gets access to the ship from the end of Man of Steel.
He gets Zod's body.
He gets Zod's dead body. He figures out really quickly how the Kryptonian stuff works. Like, apparently when all the Kryptonians died, the ship got set to easy mode or something. And admittedly, nothing Lex did showed Lex was intelligent. It just showed kind of base logic skills. Like, well, if I cut off the top layer of Zod's fingertips, I can just use his fingertips to get access to the Kryptonian ship.
I think it's very interesting that the Kryptonian ship worked on fingerprint identity technology, of all things. Just,
like, it just seems really simple.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, whatever. So, throughout a lot of the movie, aside from dream sequences, we have a lot of real-world pundits, like people you see on CNN. You had Nancy Grace, Anderson Cooper. Freaking Neil deGrasse Tyson shows up in this mofo, spouting all this stuff. Like, I didn't realize that's his voice you hear in some of the trailers. And they're just kind of talking over this footage of Superman saving people. And it's all stuff we've seen. We've seen all of it.
Yeah.
In the trailers leading up to... And it doesn't add anything. Because to me, because we've seen it for so long, for like 8 months now, for some of this footage...
Then I feel like I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything new.
Like, in my mind, I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, alright, I know this. Come on, get through it. Because they don't add... It doesn't really pad out the scenes. It doesn't add anything to the story. So what ends up happening is that the guy whose legs got cut off during the Battle of Metropolis, he ends up, he was a financial employee, and he's very pissed off at Superman. So he ends up he's the guy who defaces the statue there in the park, in the Memorial Park, tags it with false god, gets arrested for it. Lex finds out about him, not so much breaks him out, pays his bail, and says, hey, I just want to help you out, you scratch my back sort of thing. And I see what's happening before it even happens. Like, as soon as Lex went to go bail him out, I'm like, I mean, not directly, he sent Mercy to do it, but I'm like, oh, I know exactly where this is going. And, like, I don't know about you, but that didn't surprise me.
I wasn't too surprised when it happened. I was like, he's got a ploy for him, but I didn't see what the ploy was. And then, like, I pieced it all together just before.
Just before it happened?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because what ends up happening is, Finch keeps having these hearings on Superman, and really, when I'm thinking about that, all these hearings amount to pretty much dick. Mm-hmm. Because, like, you're having the hearings, but what were you going to do without actually bringing Superman in? It's only until this guy in the wheelchair, wants to testify that you actually say you want to bring Superman in.
Yeah.
Like, what were you going to... Like, were you just having these hearings to make yourself feel better? Because nobody's talking about any Superman action here. You're just kind of complaining about him behind his back.
Or, blatantly in front of him because he's paying attention because he pays attention to everything.
Yeah, but it's like, what does that get you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this the kind of way you're going to address the problems from the end of Man of Steel? Because it doesn't work.
And then let's say they actually went through those hearings, and let's say that Superman actually spoke to all these people. What if they didn't like his answers? I mean, what were they going to do? Like, they weren't going to kill Superman because he's Superman.
Here's the problem I have, because, he says he wants to testify, he wants to tell people what it was like for him on the day of the Battle of Metropolis, and they want to bring Superman in so he can, talk about it, actually give his opinion on it, which makes sense. But what ends up happening is that we don't get to hear Dude testify, Superman doesn't get to testify, they go in, and then you end up figuring out, based off some other stuff that happened, Lex being so pissed off that Finch blocked his importing of the kryptonite, that he basically set up Dude's wheelchair with a bomb to go off at the hearing and then kill everybody at the hearing, including Mercy.
Yeah.
And you figure, because there's all these protesters outside the Capitol, oh, we're just going to blame it on Superman.
I liked the look on Superman's face, like, oh, I sure am stupid. Well, they're for me to go straight into exactly where they want me, and...
Well, no, it was like, they could have drawn so much more out of that scene.
Yeah.
And I can only hope there actually is more.
Because it was so strange that's the feeling that I got from his face. Like, man, I sure am stupid. And not like, wow, I'm really genuinely hurting inside because all of these people died because I was in the building. And I didn't get that sensation at all. That he was actually sad that happened.
Because, like, the amount of strain on his face when he killed Zod would have been fitting here.
Yeah.
When there's a chance that he could have stopped this bomb from going off, or listened, or heard it, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But really, it just kind of feels like the look on his face to me read like, "Damn, I left the oven on."
Yeah.
Like, he didn't look sorry.
No.
He didn't look remorseful. He just
if it were me in that position,
he looked like he stepped in dog crap.
I would have been like, I need to figure out, like, if it was, I don't know if he just immediately came to the conclusion that the same conclusion that the news comes to, like, oh, it was the guy in the wheelchair, but I would have been like, man, I bet there's other people that wanted this organized anyway, not just the one dude, and all these very innocent people just died, and I'm gonna go figure out who that is. Like, that's me, but Clark Man is like the stupidest person.
Yeah.
And he's just like, this sure is inconvenient. I sure don't want to do this anymore. And then he leaves.
And then, and then he has the one scene with Lois, and they try to talk about, man, Superman was just this farmer's ideal back in Kansas. I'm not real. This doesn't mean anything.
And I'm kind of thinking, well, the way you're going about this, no, it sure doesn't.
Yeah, because I'm like, what farmer's ideal are you talking about? Because are we talking about your... Because it sounds like he's referring to his dad.
But his dad told him, don't do anything.
Like, hide yourself. Let other people die to keep your secret. But it's like, whose farmer's ideal is this? Like, are you trying to rewrite history here, Snyder? Because I watched the last movie. Like, I burned it into my memory. That way I didn't have to watch it multiple times. But I remember specifically, like, you don't have anything positive coming out of Jonathan for Clark to remember... for this movie to be like, oh, I'm keeping something alive for my dad. No, don't try to feed me that. We know what kind of father figure you painted Jonathan Kent to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not buying that at all.
And then Ma Kent wasn't exactly much better in this movie, and we saw her lines.
All of her lines in the commercials.
Just about all of her lines from the commercials of, you know, be the man they need you to be. Or don't, you know, they don't owe you anything.
You never owe this place anything.
You never owed this place anything. And I'm just like, well shoot, just tell him to go screw off. I mean, why?
I know, like, what does that add? And then it's like, the way it ends up playing out is that both Clark and Bruce get sent these packages, or these letters, I should say. Bruce finds out that, or the way it looks, is that dude in the wheelchair who was a Wayne employee, he was getting benefits from Wayne Enterprises.
But he wasn't cashing them in.
But he wasn't cashing them because he was pissed at Superman. And they've all got these notes on them. He's the one who wrote out the "you let your family die" thing. It wasn't the Joker, it wasn't some tie into something else, which kind of was a letdown for me.
Yeah, it kind of was more nothing. And
yeah.
Like, why even... I don't understand why he would say that line at all. Why this guy in the wheelchair would even say that.
Well,
is he mad at Bruce too?
They explain it later. He is mad, but it's not entirely him. But that gets explained later. And then Clark gets a whole different set of Polaroids showing Batman's vigilante justice, the way it affects people, like somebody who supposedly died in prison from the Bat brand off of Batarang, and you know, they're like, they say things like justice, judge, jury, executioner, and like that's what's going to push him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Bruce is thinking about, you know, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to deal with this? And then we get treated to the one dream sequence that we've all seen from the commercials, from the trailers, of this post-apocalyptic wasteland of Batman in this long trench coat, and he's like a resistance fighter who doesn't mind shooting people. There's a giant Omega symbol in the sand. There's parademons going on in the background. Superman's taken over. He just melts people. He kind of... What did he do? He like pulled Bruce's heart out or something?
Possibly, yeah. He
chest?
definitely pulled his mask off and then, yeah, went for the chest.
And then we find out it's a dream, which doesn't make sense.
Seemed obvious, but...
But it doesn't make sense, and it makes even less sense in what happens immediately after, because immediately after that, Bruce is there sitting at his you know, computer console in the Batcave, and then this giant wave of lightning energy, I guess, appears next to him, and out from inside it comes this suit of armor, and the suit of armor kind of retracts at the head, and it's the Flash, Ezra Miller's Flash. They're talking about, you know, Lois is the key to all this. You have to find all of us. You have to pull it together. You were right about him. You were right about him the whole time. Oh, am I too early? I guess I'm too early. No, literally, yeah, you're too early.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be here yet. Go back or go forward, however that works. And then Bruce kind of jolts awake like, what? Huh? And it's like, okay, so you're telling me...
So does the Flash have the ability to cause dream sequences?
No, he does not have the ability to cause dream sequences, which leads me to believe that the first part's a dream sequence and the second one is, in fact, the Flash running back through time to try...
Then who's causing the dream sequences?
Nothing's causing the dream sequences, but that's the problem, because up until that point, really throughout the whole movie, maybe at the very end, and that's a real stretch, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever why Batman should at all be dreaming about parademons or Darkseid's symbol in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
That should not be in his mind at all.
Yeah.
That information does not become available throughout the whole movie at all. The only person who does have that never speaks about it directly. Doesn't talk about any of those things. But yeah, apparently that's what sets Bruce off on his path to be like, no, I have to take him out. I gotta take him out. I have to find the kryptonite. And, I mean, did they ever refer to it as kryptonite? I'm trying to remember. I don't think they do.
Not
They just call it the
directly,
green mineral, I think. But you know it's kryptonite. It's just easier to refer to it as such. Right, so what ends up happening is... Bruce, you know, tracks it down, you know, oh, this is the ship I've been looking for the whole time. That's the shipment of kryptonite that's coming in through a port, which could be in Gotham or Metropolis. It doesn't really friggin' matter. And there's this nice, interesting enough chase with the Batmobile, you know, trying to get after the trucks that have the...
Again, crushing people and...
It wasn't a bad sequence.
It's a decent enough sequence. It just really colors what kind of a Batman this Batman is.
Because I'm absolutely 100% positive you could have done that sequence without Batman not caring about collateral damage.
Yeah.
Like, you make this whole big deal, like, you've written this whole movie trying to deal with Superman's collateral damage, and you gave us a Batman that doesn't care about collateral damage. That is the thing I don't think anybody's brought up yet. Maybe it's because of the embargo, but that's the thing I can't forgive.
No, I understand that for sure.
Like, that I can absolutely say pissed me off.
That, and I feel like there was just continued collateral damage later on, too. And once it gets toward the end, yeah, Batman was like, I need to take things back to Gotham, and then I'm just kind of thinking, now you want to damage Gotham too? Because Gotham is going to take some hits in this, and it does. So
yeah, so
right.
like that's the biggest problem, is that I guess to balance out Superman's.
But it doesn't make any sense because
yeah, no, it doesn't.
Because Bruce is so pissed at Superman for having done all of this collateral damage and hurting people in his own building there in Metropolis.
But then Bruce doesn't care about collateral damage. That's where I can't forgive it. That's the biggest detriment, like, because it's tied into the killing thing. The thing is, this Batman doesn't mind that, and he should. Like, you can't tell me he's so world-weary that he's gone back on the very things that helped him become Batman to begin with. At that point, Snyder, you're really screwed up there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what. Like, it feels like at points he's pulling from different comics, but it's like he kind of flipped through them, like, okay, this is the thing I want. I don't need to read the rest of this.
And I'm so disappointed because I've had this conversation with you before where I used to think, oh man, there's going to be a comic book movie, let's let Zack Snyder direct it, because I thought he made a very accurate recreation of 300 and an almost, not quite perfect, but very close to perfect recreation of Watchmen. And then we saw Sucker Punch, which ironically
came out on this day.
Same day 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, well, this is not nearly as good at all. Maybe he just needs to not write his own things, and he should just stick to comic adaptations. And it turns out, once we saw Man of Steel, I was like, well, I guess I was wrong again, and I don't know what Zack Snyder is anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know what comics he thought he read, or maybe he was like, I am just going to skim through them, and I'm going to decide to write my own thing. Like, that's the problem. Maybe he's just a really bad writer, and he has to be given something that already pre-existed and that was already well written in order for him to direct a good movie.
No, because even then, this movie, like, well, let's continue with it. So, we go back to dealing between Bruce and Diana about, you know, why she stole his information there, the little, whatever you call it, the data mining thing. And Bruce ends up, you know, confronting her about it, and she's like, no, I'm looking for a photo. That's all I was looking for, and I gave you back your information. It's in your car. Mm-hmm. Bruce gets it back, and then he finds out, wait a minute, the thing is a picture of her, but from 1918, and this, of course, is setting up...
Is it 1918 or 1913?
It's one or the other.
Whatever, early 1900s.
World War I, circa World War I. And, you know, the photo has her and Chris Pine, who's going to be Steve Trevor there in the movie. And that's an Easter egg right there. Like, hey, don't forget, watch Wonder Woman when it comes out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get it. That's really on the nose. And then you kind of see that Bruce has these files on these other people, and you can clearly see they're kind of already kind of marked with the symbols. Mm-hmm. And you
of the Flash and
Cyborg.
Aquaman.
And Aquaman. And then the thing I don't get is that he kind of has the Wonder Woman symbol there on his computer, but like there's nobody ever calls her that in the whole movie, and the only thing he has to go off is the old picture that he just found. Otherwise, he's got two.
Yeah, so do these people already have names? Because otherwise those symbols don't make sense because they're letters. W's and A's. The only thing that's not a letter.
W, A, and C.
Is the Flash, the lightning bolt thing.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like, you
I
already gave him a moniker, so.
But yeah, I don't think I'm skipping ahead here. Bruce decides, you know what, screw this. I'm not playing by the rules. I'm going to go and just straight up steal the kryptonite from Lex. You know,
who's already stealing it because, you know, he's got the embargo on. They told him no.
But he did it anyway.
He's doing it anyway.
So Bruce takes the kryptonite and starts fashioning weapons with it, and like, okay, again, this is a Batman thing. But one thing that really bugged me is that he gets a giant chunk of it, and at base description, it sounds about right. He starts fashioning it into a kryptonite spear, to fully take care of Superman. It's like, okay, on the surface, that's a very Batman thing to do. But the problem is he's there using this high-powered laser to whittle away at it.
Blasting away at it, and it's like, what happens to the rest of this kryptonite? There's only so much of that kryptonite, right?
Yeah, like if it's a finite resource, why would you just burn off what you could potentially use there? Like, that doesn't sound like that. Like, that sounds really wasteful for Batman.
Yeah. On top of that, I guess I just sort of felt like after a certain point, I sort of felt upset that Superman knew who Batman was first and it wasn't the other way around, because Batman, it felt like he kind of didn't do his homework on Superman
that bugs me. That really
nearly
did
as
bug
much
me.
as I thought he should have. Gets freaked out when Superman calls him Bruce, gets freaked out.
Well, no, he doesn't even address it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, he doesn't address that, but he gets freaked out at the name Martha, and Batman doesn't realize they both got moms named Martha, and I feel like, Bruce, you should have known this already? You just should have?
And I know this might be preaching to the choir here, but I always go back to the world's finest episodes in the Batman-Superman show, back in the day. That was the perfect description, or depiction, I should say, of how the two of them find out. Superman just uses his X-ray vision under the cowl. Oh, you're Bruce Wayne. Batman uses his detective skills. I got you now, Clark. That's character. Whereas here, it's kind of like a giveaway? Like, that information doesn't have weight. Their identities.
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of thrown out there. Again, something I really can't get past. But then it's set up to where, we're setting up the stage for the fight here. Clark has this dream about going up a mountain, and then I wasn't expecting him to be there. Kevin Costner is there in the dream.
I don't know whether or not it's a dream. I don't know whether or not, and this really bothers me, because I really think he really did go away for a long period of time, because later on Lois is like, oh, you came back. Like, okay, he was gone, but I don't know how long you were gone. Like, I talked about that earlier. But he, goes up this mountain, and he's dressed in all these nice warm clothes, and he's carrying a backpack, and I'm like, well, Superman shouldn't need to do that unless he's trying to be really incognito, I suppose.
I guess.
But then, yeah, this conversation with Kevin Costner is like, okay, is this real? Is it a dream? Is it a hallucination?
Well, it can't be real. Jonathan died in the last movie. We watched him die.
Yeah, but if we want to talk about, spirituality and say that his ghost dad showed up to talk to him, I don't know.
It's either a dream or a hallucination.
Because they keep talking about religion over the course of not just this movie, but in Man of Steel as well. So it's really hard to tell what kind of a message Zack Snyder is trying to send in that scene. I can't freaking tell.
Yeah, and it's like they're trying to make up for how bad they wrote Jonathan last time, where he gives a speech that kind of makes sense for the movie and kind of tries to paint him in a different light about what it means to be a hero, but there's a weight to it. But I know, meta style that, oh, you're just trying to convince me Jonathan wasn't as bad of a dad as you painted him out to be, so I'm not buying it. I know this is trying to make up for where you guys already failed. And no. So what ends up happening is, Clark's been gone for a while. This whole time, Lois has been trying to figure out, well, what's the deal with these, this ammunition that the guys back at the beginning of the movie were using, because nobody seems to know what it is. She ends up finding out they're from LexCorp. And she starts putting the puzzle pieces together. Wait a minute, this is all being painted to make it look like Superman killed more people than he did, or because he didn't really kill anybody at all. And again, it goes back to the whole thing, why would you blame a bullet wound on Superman?
Seriously,
that doesn't make
I don't
any sense.
understand, yeah.
But then it comes down to the whole thing where Lex starts putting his plan into action, which involves him kidnapping Martha Kent, kidnapping Lois, and then monologuing to Lois about, hey, I've got this plan, I'm gonna be crazy now, ooh. And it's
I'm gonna push you off a building, bye! Pew, perfect, Superman came back because you're in trouble. Awesome. Hey, Superman, now that you're here, I got your mom. She's gonna be fine so long as you kill Batman. Alright, hop to it.
Oh, and I know you're Clark. Which I can't even give him that, because nobody should not know he's Clark.
Because everybody just sees him dressed as Superman, and Lois is out there yelling, Clark!
In the first movie.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like really? I don't even... hardly think he's protecting his identity that hard.
No.
Here, but Lex is trying to play it off as, oh, I figured it out. You're Clark Kent, and I'm like, it wasn't hard. Snyder invented a world where it wasn't that hard to come to that decision. So on the same end, like she says, Lex sends him off to go die at the hands of Batman, who he knows is the one who stole the kryptonite, wants him to have the kryptonite so he can take down Superman and get him off the board. And of course, Bruce, with full brooding, has fashioned his weapons, gotten the big old armor suit out, puts the symbol up in the sky.
But Clark's all like, well, I guess I gotta kill him, but maybe I can get him on my side and get him to help save my mom, or because, I can't save her myself. I don't understand how Superman can't figure out where his own mom is.
Yeah, see, that's like, he picks weird parts of the movie to use his hearing.
Yeah, if he can hear Lois from halfway across the world, he can't hear his own mother's voice in some other building somewhere else in Metropolis? Are you serious?
Well, cause
she's in Metropolis!
She's either in Metropolis or Gotham. Either way, she's close. She's within like a 20-mile radius, and apparently his hearing's better than that. So,
he's gotta just be so stupid that when he gets emotional, he just doesn't think.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation I can think of.
And again, that doesn't sound very Superman-ish. So now we've gotten through all of that. Now we actually get to really the third act of the movie, which is kind of in two parts. The part that they've been trying to sell you ever since they announced this movie, the actual fight between Batman and Superman.
Yeah, but it's like that in the end, because Justice League has to happen, and because Wonder Woman hasn't come in to help fight anything yet, and that she does, everything's going to end up pretty peachy keen between the two of them. And so I'm like, well, nobody's going to win. And they don't. There isn't a winner.
The sucky thing about it, and this could make or break it for some of you, the fight maybe, as a whole, lasts 3-4 minutes. And it doesn't even feel like a full 3-4 minutes. Because basically the way it works is kind of like how you see it. Batman's kind of had his whole alley set up there for when Superman lands. He's got, just like in friggin' The Dark Knight Returns, because this is where the playbook comes in, he's got the sonic devices. Superman takes those out. He's got Gatling guns. Superman takes those out. Superman throws them up on the roof. Batman hits him with a grenade that's got
kryptonite gas,
which almost instantaneously weakens him. He gives a very weak version of the speech he gives him in Dark Knight Returns. It doesn't really work here.
No,
I really don't think it does.
I really wish... I was thinking, because I remember the first time they dropped a teaser that they were making Batman v Superman, and they used that speech of, remember, I'm the one guy who beat you, blah-de-blah, however that exactly goes. And I was like... And you didn't even use it.
Yeah.
Even
you hearkened to it.
Even though it was the very first thing we were ever teased for this movie. I was really, really disappointed by that.
Yeah, but then, the fight really takes place in that one building where Bruce has kind of set it up like this is going to be the building where the fight happens. And they keep it confined to one building. Good on them. But for the most of it, they're just kind of throwing each other around. There was never a point in that entire fight.
The CG is bad the way it was bad in Man of Steel. So they just looked like video game characters, kind of limply.
Actually, I'm just thinking of that now, and I'll say it again because we know it's coming.
The upcoming fight, yeah.
And this fight, there was never a single point in either fight where I reacted. There was never a point that made me go, ooh, nothing.
Yeah.
Not a dang thing.
It was spectacle, but it wasn't spectacle that made me feel... Because I felt like these people could take it. That's the problem. Even when Superman was gassed, I didn't feel like, oh no, he's actually getting hurt, because we don't see him bleed. Even though...
Well, no, we see him bleed once.
We see him bleed once with one scratch across his cheek with the kryptonite spear.
Yeah.
But that's not used until the fight is over.
Pretty much over at that point, yeah. Because throughout the whole thing, really what it comes down to, if you want actual just factual figures, Bruce tried the sonic attack, it didn't work. Tried the Gatling guns, it didn't work. Gassed him twice with 2 kryptonite grenades, and then scratches his cheek just to prove that it'll work. And then that's it. That's about
he's about to stab him.
Significant damage that he does to Superman.
Because otherwise Superman also, knocks him around like a cat toy, but even even so,
cracked his mask.
Even so, that suit held up relatively well, and I'm just like, God, I'm not worried for his health. You know?
I wasn't worried for anybody's health. Like, I want to say it looked a little bit like Superman lost some mass being exposed to the kryptonite gas, and maybe that was just me.
I didn't see
It might be just me. I'm willing to admit that. Point being, like, you know, at a certain point, Batman's got him cold, which, if you want to try and have that argument of who would actually win in a fight, no, if he got exposed to enough kryptonite and Superman has no concept of what kryptonite is, then yeah, Batman's going to win. But basically what it comes down to is, you know, he's getting ready to have the killing blow. Lois shows up, you know, right at the point where Clark's trying to get out the important information, which he could have led off with at the beginning of the fight.
Well, he tried to, and then Batman was like, well, I'm going to fight you anyway. But if it were me, I would have been like, no, I'm going to keep talking to you. Batman, stop it. I'm trying to tell you a thing. You know, like the fight in They Live. Just put on the glasses.
Yeah, basically, if it had been like that, that would have been so much better. There would have been weight there.
Yeah.
You know, because one person's so not listening, and one other person has the legitimate truth, but they don't even go there.
Put the glasses on. Just listen to what I have to say, Bruce. Bruce, just knock it off.
Shut up. Like, that would have worked, but what this comes down to is, like, right after he says the line, "Stay down. If I wanted you, you'd be dead already. Now here's what's happening. My mother's been kidnapped." Like, if you just said that right there, the whole fight would have been over, but I get it. You've banked this whole movie on having this fight, so technically he can't say that, but I know that's not good writing if I know that's the only reason he's not saying it. Until the very last second, where you had all this time where they're, you know, kind of catching their breath on either sides of a hallway. Wait, my mom, like, there was so much time in there. Within 3 to 4 minutes of mentioning, hey, my mom's been kidnapped, would you mind helping me out? I'm trying to relate to you as
we're only fighting because we've been set up to fight because my mom has been kidnapped.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen, so,
Yeah, Lois runs in. Like, nobody talks about that. Like, half of Bruce's mask is gone, so she can tell now that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. Like, okay.
Also, why is Lois there? How did Lois get there?
Because she knew that Lex was sending Superman. Because Superman stopped to tell her, hey, I'm going to Gotham because I have to go fight him.
That's right.
So she knows to go there. And she tells it, no, Martha's his mom, Martha's his mom. And some people are calling this weak, that's what it takes for Batman to back off. But it's like, no, I'll give him that much. That's a Batman thing again.
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, wait, it's about mom's name Martha. Dang it, I specifically have a mom named Martha. No, I
It's pretty convenient, though, don't you think?
It's really convenient.
That which you have to give more to the older writing of the older comics.
Yeah, because you didn't really think about that it would ever come into play that, oh, it just so happens both of these superheroes have moms named Martha. But I guess they made it work here, so one good... Like, the one original thing I'll give you, Snyder, you got one, and that's all I'm going to give you because let's go into the rest. So Superman blatantly tells him, okay, this is what's up, they've got my mom somewhere, it's on a timer, they're going to kill her, I need your help. And they basically decide, no, look, your mom will not die tonight. And you can see how he's internalizing that, you know, like a chance to save his own mom. So Superman flies off to go talk to Lex, you know, tell him to piss off or whatever.
Yeah.
Batman goes to the building they're holding Martha in, and this right here is probably the highlight of the movie, because we've seen most of this clip in, like, the second to last or the last trailer we got of Batman busting into this place. We didn't know why.
Arkham style.
It's straight up Arkham Knight style. Like, he does it almost by the book. He uses the disruptor to take out the weapons, he grapples people, he batarangs people, he uses takedown moves. Like, it's almost straight up Arkham. Up to the point where he stabs somebody in the heart. Like, that wasn't... I don't think that was cool. That was not kosher.
No, that wasn't cool with that.
He broke limbs just like they would in the cinematics.
Yeah.
He didn't mind if the gunshots were going at other people. He took a lot of gunshots. He took one to the back of the head.
Because his suit apparently can take that.
Yeah.
You know, if I were Batman, regardless of whether or not my suit can take a bullet to the back of the head, I would be like, how about I never allow somebody to be in that position to shoot me in the back of the head?
Now, but really, when you break it all down up until the point where he actually saves Martha, that right there is what's going to make people salivate for a solo Affleck Batman movie. That right there. If you can get that again with a different director for another 2 hours, not longer than that, then yeah, you're going to have a movie there. You're going to have a very successful movie, because that felt like Batman, and I didn't have any problems with it until we get to the point where Batman decided to blow somebody up to save Martha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, this character that they've thrown in there, Anatoly, I forget his full name, but in the comics he's KG Beast. Mm-hmm. And they never refer to him as KG Beast. He doesn't have any costume of any sort. He's just kind of there as a throwaway character, like, oh, well, we need a thug. That guy, he'll do. And so he's there, and, he's like, back off, otherwise I'll kill her. And, he's just there like, no, I believe you. And then, hits his gas, because he had a flamethrower on her, of all things. Mm-hmm. Hits the tank and then blows her up. And then the one, I think it's like one of the two funny lines in the movie, like, don't worry, I'm a friend, I'm an associate of your son's. I could guess. And the cape. Yeah. And it's like, and I remember saying
allowed comedy.
And I remember it was the one thing, because it got a decent enough laugh from everybody in the auditorium, and I'm thinking, you guys threw in a joke. Did you hurt yourselves?
Yeah.
Like, did you have to go to rehab from that? How are you feeling after that? But yeah, then we go back to Metropolis. Superman busts in with Lex, and Lex is already, throughout this whole thing, he's gotten access to the Kryptonian technology. He reactivated the birthing chamber, and he's been creating Doomsday by using Zod's body, which we already figured.
What a throwaway of Doomsday, though.
The thing that doesn't make any sense here is that he creates Doomsday. If you know anything about the comics, Doomsday was created somewhere else by a different scientist for a different purpose, mistreated for years and years, or experiment after experiment until he became what he is. Here what he is he's Zod's body in a Kryptonian birthing chamber with some of Lex's DNA mixed in. Which sounds a lot more like Superboy's origin. And I'm like, Snyder, did you, only watch part of an episode of the beginning of Young Justice? Like, did you see it was on Netflix? And then decide, well, I don't have time for this. I have to make this movie. I kind of remember that and Doomsday. Yeah, there. Here you go. And kind of it's this mishmash, orc-looking Doomsday
with no character, no lines, just a lot of
which works out for him because granted, the only thing Doomsday does in the comics is destroy. So fine.
But why call him Doomsday though? He's got no art.
Oh, yeah, it's a shoehorn thing to call him Doomsday there. Like, oh, I created this for you. This is your Doomsday. Like, okay, fine. You had to stick that in there. But then it's the whole thing of, if he's the contingency plan for assuming Superman didn't get to kill Batman, why would you create him in the first place if you had no way of controlling him?
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea how this is going to work. Mm-hmm. You just kind of did it.
Yeah, that was exactly
that doesn't seem very smart on Lex's part.
Yeah.
That's a very not Lex Luthor thing to do.
Yeah, because Lex Luthor is a relatively calculating sort of a character.
For the bulk of the movie.
Well, for the bulk of his character.
Yes, but here it's like, this is the one major slip-up, it kind of doesn't make sense why you would do this. Mm-hmm. Were you really so backed into a corner by this that you had to activate Doomsday? And it just, the timing of it seemed too perfect. Oh, timer's up. Oh, Superman's back. Doomsday's awake right now. That's super convenient, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
But then, of course, Doomsday appears. He initially looks like an orc. It is true what they say, that he gains more spikes.
Mass and spikes, yeah.
As he's attacked.
Including with nuclear warheads.
Well, see, the nuclear warhead is a throwback to The Dark Knight Returns, because Superman, after the effects of the nuke, looks like he does when he's hit by the nuke in The Dark Knight Returns. And I'm like, well, did you really have to stick that in there? Because he's only down for, 5 seconds movie time?
And then he's reinvigorated by the power of the sun. Awesome! I wish they would have remembered that for a little bit later on, but
yeah, now Doomsday's out on the loose. Anderson Cooper's covering the story on CNN. Okay, great, we had to have another cameo here. Mm-hmm. Diana is getting on a plane somewhere, and
she sees Anderson Cooper and is like, I just saw Anderson Cooper, I need to get off this plane. And then goes to, no, by that point it's Gotham. Because,
she heads to Gotham.
Because Batman's all like, well, that nuclear warhead didn't work. I have to trace him back to Gotham because that's where
the Kryptonite
sphere is. And here's what I don't understand, right? Lois goes back and she's like, Batman had this Kryptonite sphere and he was about to hurt Superman with it. I don't really know what it does. I just showed up here and then I just kind of threw the spear away. But I need to go get this spear back. And I'm like, why do you know you need to go get the spear back? One, you're not sure what the thing is to begin with, just maybe kind of...
Like, she has no context for it.
That it was going to hurt Superman, maybe. And then you don't know what this monster thing is, you don't know what Doomsday is, you don't know how it was made, you don't know that it's part Kryptonian, you don't know any of that crap. Why do you think you need to go back and grab this spear and then go and get yourself trapped underwater in the process?
The finale here.
Yeah.
And the thing about it too, like we kind of skipped that for a second, is that Bruce emails Diana this information like, hey, I figured out you're the person...
No, we talked about that.
Well, no, that he sent her the email, no.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Well, no, we talked about him having the files, but we didn't talk about him emailing them to Diana. Because those are two separate things. Mm. Well, the thing about it is, before Diana shows up, she gets sent this email from Bruce about, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? I know who you are. There's others like us. And Diana is the one who ends up watching these other files on the other members of the Justice League. Like, we see... And it's real brief for each of them, She doesn't have to look at her own stuff because obviously she's there. We look at a clip of Ezra Miller stopping a convenience store robbery really quickly.
As the Flash, yeah.
Well, not really as the Flash, just demonstrating his power.
Yeah.
We see Cyborg's whole origin just about with, surprisingly, Joe Morton is apparently Silas Stone, which I think is great casting, but it's like...
But he had 2 lines, and then it was over.
But, like, we see, like very RoboCop style. There's only so much of Victor there, strung up with missing from his like ribs down. Mm-hmm. Like he's pretty much like I don't even know how he'd be alive. And then apparently he's got like what looks like a mother box, and the mother box is what attaches to him and creates the rest of his cyborg body. And then we have Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, and...
swimming around in a very obvious tank on set someplace, and he's kind of really slow and really kind of clunky, and then he kind of pulls back his spear, and I don't know why he's looking directly into a camera, like he knows that this is where he needs to look. He slowly pulls back that spear, and then he slowly starts... Because this is water, and we didn't bother to speed up the footage to make it look like he's really strong underwater.
Until the next shot, which is apparently from another underwater drone, and then it shows him move really fast like Superman through water, and then that didn't really mesh. Mm-hmm. And this is it. That's all of the other... With the other, weird cameo from Flash early in the movie, that's all the other Justice League you get from the other characters, other than who we know is here, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. And it's like, with that, specifically with that Aquaman thing, it's like, could you have done something differently with that? Because it feels labored. Aquaman needs to be a little quicker. There should have been a more, how do I say it, just a better nuanced way of showing that he was there, instead of being blatantly, oh, here's the guy who can run fast, here's an underwater man, here's RoboCop. Like, that it felt too on the nose, mm-hmm. Like, oh, how lucky for Bruce to have the exact footage that proves who these people are, and not something where he had to do some detective work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now Wonder Woman is kind of sort of aware of that. But yeah, like you said, Bruce, Batman, decides, oh, well, I have to get this thing back to chase me back over to Gotham. And yeah, it's like, why would you do that?
So we can use the kryptonite spear.
What was funny, though, was when he was in Metropolis, Anderson Cooper has to make mention over the airwaves, well, he's in downtown in a part of the city which should be empty right now, as if that's...
Why? But why is it empty?
Well, like you have to say that to give us the workaround of, oh, so there's nobody in these buildings, there's less people.
But why is nobody there?
Like, come on, at any given point in any building, there's somebody there. Mm-hmm. There's cleaning crews, there's people working night shifts. Like, that doesn't blanket get rid of collateral damage, and even then, buildings are still getting blown up. That's just a thing that's happening. So, yeah, Doomsday chases Batman back to Gotham, so now Gotham's in danger. Wonder Woman shows up to deflect the blast away from him using her gauntlets. Superman shows back up. They start figuring out, oh, we can't hurt him, he gets stronger with every hit we give him. They give away the, is she with you? I thought she was with you. Alright, whatever. Mm-hmm. Let's take it on. And then they have that shot of all three of them lined up next to each other, and again, like we've said several times, I felt nothing.
Yeah.
Seeing them all together, the inner child in me wants to be like, yeah, they're all together, alright, this is awesome, right, woo! But it's like, no, they're just kind of standing there.
Yeah.
There's not that payoff, because you know what they're trying to mimic. It's not nearly the payoff you get in the Avengers when you see all 6 characters
Especially
together.
because there's no chemistry amongst them yet, because Batman and Superman, while they have an agreement, they are not friends with one another, and Wonder Woman is just sort of there, and neither one of them really has any clear indication as to who she is. Even though Batman has spent, like, about 10 seconds longer with her than Superman has.
If that, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing now we skipped that part way back when of that whole interplay between them, you know. Next time they show you your light in the sky, don't go to it. The bat's dead.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It really doesn't. But now the fight is on between all 3 of them.
And really, it's mostly Wonder Woman and Superman, while Batman's just like, I need to not get hit because he will kill me because I am not a superhuman.
And I only have 1 kryptonite grenade left.
So he's just kind of grappling, hooking away from everything, really. It's kind of sad. Then Superman's like, oh no, Lois is trapped underwater, I need to go rescue her. Then he rescues her, and then he goes and he dives down to be the idiot. Like really, if it were me,
the smarter thing to do would have been...
Like, here, I moved the rubble for you, are you okay now? Great, can you go get that for me?
Because I can't touch it.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even have that discussion.
Yeah.
You know, like, even... Like, I'm not trying to play favorites here, even though it's kind of obvious here. The Donner Superman was at least clear about, hey, Superman will convey to you, I can't move normally because this thing is sapping my power. Can you help me?
Yeah.
You know, where here there's like, it's not even a matter of, oh, they're in a relationship, there's nonverbal communication. No, you need to talk here.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you don't know what you're going after. It hurts me. I didn't even tell you it could hurt them. You just kind of started moving without questioning, and that's kind of dumb on your part, especially if you're a reporter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really I felt like the slant was Superman was kind of fighting Doomsday, but really Wonder Woman's the one fighting Doomsday more than the rest of them, because she's there slicing at him, trying to punch him. Superman's trying to use his heat vision.
Which is pretty cool, but when I've got no character development on her, I don't feel as much for how cool it should be.
Like, it felt like I was watching cutscene animation.
Yeah, and it was animated most of the time, and almost like 90% of the time. But then finally Superman's like, alright, I'm gonna go take the thing and I'm gonna go stab the guy. And Lois is like, no, don't do that. And he's like, nope, there's no discussion here. I'm just doing this. It couldn't have been like, can we figure out a way to pass this over to Wonder Woman? Because clearly she's doing
like, that was the first thing I thought.
Because in my head, first I was like, well, Superman's clearly the only person who can do it. No, that's stupid. Why doesn't he give it to Wonder Woman? Yeah, that's how this is going to go. He's going to have to give it to Wonder Woman, and she's going to have to deliver the blow, which would be a little...
Or give it to Batman. He'll sneak it in.
Yeah, which would be a little lame because this is a Batman-Superman movie, but, you know, she's clearly the only person who can do it. But they didn't do that. They made...
Like, nobody was thinking.
They made Superman a martyr.
Well, see, that's the thing, because they lead you into this saying that they're pulling from The Dark Knight Returns, and you're worried about Doomsday, and we're all here thinking, oh, you're just going to mess up Doomsday. No, they've been lying to you this whole time. They're not just pulling from Dark Knight Returns. Zyder decided to go for the hat trick and be like, you know what? We're also going to do the death of Superman. And it's almost like Superman sees it coming, like, oh, he's growing a sword hand. I know how this works.
Yeah.
Like, they almost exactly play it like that. Like, again, the look on his face broadcasts the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening is, you know, Wonder Woman restrains him using the lasso of truth, which is glowing at this point, and never actually gets used for
truth
purposes.
Yeah.
Batman hits him with the last kryptonite canister he's got, and which weakens him long enough for Superman to give his tearful goodbye to Lois. He picks up the kryptonite spear
It's really
and
horrible.
rams it through Doomsday, effectively, you know, mortally wounding him. But Doomsday's still got an arm free, this sword arm that he's now got, and gets Superman right in the heart. And I'm like, Superman, once you've kind of gotten the spear through him the first time,
let go.
like, you don't
Go
necessarily
away.
have to let go, but you've got another hand. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, he's not made out of kryptonite. The kryptonite's on the other end here, and even if it's weakening you, you have another hand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, he could have blocked. Like, that's going to be the complaint I think a lot of people are going to have. Like, Superman, why didn't you block?
But so then Superman dies, and I'm just like, it's really drawn out and dramatic, but I don't feel anything.
Exactly, because, like, immediately after, like, there's the wrap-up there, Lois is there weeping over his body, and you see the Trinity all together. But
he mailed himself a ring that he wanted to give to you.
Because he wanted to ask you to marry him.
Because he thought ahead and figured he was gonna die, maybe, or something. Why did he mail it to himself? Why would he? I don't
like, that didn't make any sense. That seemed like a throwaway.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, they have the funeral. They have 2 funerals for him. One where apparently his body is in Smallville, and then
one for Clark and one for Superman.
One for Clark and one for Superman. And the symbolism, or not even the symbolism, the visuals there are straight out of Death of Superman. Black with a very silver polished symbol of what's on his chest there for everybody in DC, Washington DC, I should specify. And again, it's like, you're trying to do Death of Superman when there's no other heroes to mourn him. Like, we haven't even gotten to the point where the heroes are actually aware of each other yet, and you're jumping here.
Yeah, and Batman and Wonder Woman are just both kind of like, man, we could have done better, couldn't we? Yeah, I guess so. And neither one of them knew him. And
yeah, like, and nobody can eulogize him. Like, nothing. Like,
I further felt nothing because I know he has to come back for Justice League. So, like, I just knew. Like, I felt nothing.
Yeah, because you're not going to fall for it.
Yeah.
And the funny part about it is, like, 2 seats over from us, we had a girl crying there, and our friend next to him actually leaned over and went, "Really? Really? Like, you don't know?" And like, call that whatever you want. Even if you don't know comics, you know Justice League is coming. Like, everybody knows it's coming. And, Bruce is there trying to talk about, like, oh, well, he's dead now, but we still need to find the other ones like us, the other metahumans.
What makes you say that? Just have a feeling.
Just have a feeling.
What? The feeling of a contract that says you're locked into a few
exactly.
movies?
Like, what reason does Bruce Wayne have to say that?
I don't know, because he talked to the Flash, I guess.
Well, sort of. Like, he kind of yelled at him from across time or space or whatever. And then it was kind of cool, this last part, which I thought was going to lead into something more, but what happens is, like, we see Lex, I guess he got imprisoned for what he did,
Oh, yeah, I love how we didn't explain that. We explained it with an orange jumpsuit and a shaved head.
Like, okay, great, now he's bald like he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then, the guards are like, alright, turn around, hands on your head, and then, boom, Batman's in the cell. Very Nolan style, I say. And then he's there like, oh, I'm getting ready to brand you, I'm pissed at you, mofo. And then Lex is there gloating, because earlier in the movie, when he got a hold of all the technology from Krypton, the computer tells him, hey, I've got all this information on all the other parts of the galaxy. Would you like to know more, basically? Mm-hmm. And Lex is like, oh, hell yeah, I'd like to know more. So, at this point, he gloats with that information against Batman, like, hey, you don't even realize what just happened. And I'm paraphrasing here because I don't want to repeat what Jesse Eisenberg said because it was kind of poorly written. It's like, you don't realize what we just did. I'm probably going to say it better, to be honest. Like, hey, you don't realize what we just did. We're not alone in the universe. We just let other people across the universe know that Superman's dead, and they're coming. He's coming, and he's hungry, and he's gonna come, and he's gonna destroy everything, and it's gonna be a thing. And
it's gonna be a thing.
That's basically what he says.
Yeah.
And then Batman leaves him there, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie. Like, that's your big tease for obviously Darkseid.
And you see some dirt rise up.
Oh yeah, and then at the last part, they pull a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. They go back to the dirt plot where Clark's in the ground. Lois drops some dirt on it, and then the last possible second they zoom in on the top, and then kind of the effect that you see in Man of Steel when he's getting ready to start flying, how the dirt starts cycling up. It just barely starts getting ready to do that. Like, you see it move, and that's it. That's the end of the movie.
To speak once more of Clark's death. Like, he kind of halfway died up in space after getting hit with nukes, and then the sun regenerated him. Did nobody wait just, like, until the sun rose to see if maybe Superman would start to feel a little better?
Well, like, I guess they figured, well, there's no point, he was stabbed through the heart, but even then it's like, yeah, but we don't know how aliens work, so I would give it another couple of hours. That's just me,
yeah.
But I don't think there was anybody there smart enough, not even Bruce, to come to that conclusion of, well, maybe we should see. We're just going to assume he's dead. He looks pretty dead. And I won't fault them for that inherently, but I get where that logic comes in.
So I do want to make mention that we've kind of gone over really the entirety of the movie, that I feel like this was two different movies, especially by the time we get to the end of the Batman and Superman fight. Like, it's been this build-up this whole time of a relatively grounded set of really earthly human moral standards, and then suddenly, boom, really a whole lot of aliens and superhuman things going on, and monsters and city destruction and stuff like that. Two completely different kinds of movies, and then furthermore, speaking as someone looking at it from a cinematic perspective, it's a mess.
It's a hot mess.
It is garbage, absolutely a hot mess. Because it's like, you literally can't go more than 3 minutes without jumping to some other place in some other time, and you don't know how much time has passed, and you're having a hard time piecing the whole thing together, and just, who decided to edit it this way? I can't freaking... There's too many storylines going on all at once.
Yeah. Now, the thing about it is, I'm really kind of confused about how I feel about it in certain things. Like, you've heard me say there are things I straight up don't like.
I have not heard you say hardly anything you do like. This is what is confusing me about why you feel
this is what's coming back to it. Like, this is me trying to put it in a nutshell. So, I talk about it like, really the biggest saving grace of the whole movie is Ben Affleck's performance as Batman.
Right.
I will say that much. It is at least worth the price of admission to watch him as Batman. I will say that. I will not say that it's worth a second watch.
I don't even know that it's worth buying this upcoming Blu-ray that's supposed to...
No, like when Redbox has that mess, Redbox that mess.
I don't necessarily know that it's worth the price of admission to see the Batman part, because while it is the best part, that doesn't mean that it's a good Batman. I mean, it's...
No, because he's got his faults too.
And it's not Ben Affleck's fault.
It's not his fault.
It's the writing of the character. It's the writing of what this Batman is allowed to do, what they've allowed him to not do, like be a smart person sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't find the bathroom, and why don't I know that Superman is Clark Kent and that his mother's name is Martha, because you're supposed to be a detective because you came out of Detective Comics. That's your origin.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, because like when you compare it visually, he's got files on Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Aquaman, and Flash. He's got pictures of Superman, but he doesn't have any files on him. Like that's kind of the thing where Snyder, I can clearly see where your train of thought fell off.
Yeah.
Because you want to show us he's obsessed with Superman, but he's obsessed with the concept, and the Batman I know takes it further than that. So yeah, you're actually right in that respect. Like, he's, in certain points, it's like there are things he gets right as Batman. The whole movie gets right as Batman, but it's up to a certain point, and then at that point it's like, but you can't knock off the fact that he killed people, he didn't have a file on Superman, he didn't know who he was, and
you had to ask where the bathroom was in order to throw off the trail of trying to hack into the
like,
computer.
you're better than that. I disagree with a lot of the reviews saying Wonder Woman's the highlight of the movie.
I think she's good when she's
cool.
there.
She's cool.
But the thing is, they don't elaborate on her well enough for me to feel like I grew attached to her. I didn't grow attached to hardly anybody except maybe Batman, and in my head I'm having to rewrite what Batman is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of okay and kind of not. I'm more okay with it because at least they developed him, because they didn't further develop Clark Man, and they didn't develop Wonder Woman next to at all.
Yeah.
And then Alfred, I guess, isn't a butler, but you would never know that because the movie never says that he's not a butler.
For what it's worth, Jeremy Irons is perfectly serviceable as Alfred. I never had a problem with Alfred. He seems like the kind of Alfred I would come to expect to be with this kind of Batman. I really don't have any complaints there. Jeremy Irons was just fine. Lawrence Fishburne back as Perry White. He's kind of the same Perry White as last time. He had a little more meat this time in telling Clark, hey, you can't go write that story. But that's about as far as it goes. Senator Finch.
Wait, did you say Jeremy Irons?
As Alfred.
It's because Lawrence Fishburne.
Is Perry White.
Yeah, it's Perry White.
Yeah. And then Holly Hunter as Senator Finch is expendable. That's just what it breaks down to. Tao Okamoto as Mercy, I think maybe she had one line.
She had that line about, what are you doing down here?
Yeah, that's right. That was her one line.
I can't find the bathroom. It's upstairs.
And then she got off.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no, like, she is the Cal Penn of this movie, if you guys know what I'm talking about from Superman Returns. So that's unfortunate there. Otherwise, like General Stanek, he's in there for a second to help Lois put some stuff together.
So what did you like? Because I don't understand why you're having this crisis of faith with this movie when I can't hear you. I can't hear you name anything you actually liked.
I like the saving Martha sequence with Batman.
That's not
I like
gonna
that
save
certain
the
thing. You're not asking me if
Alright.
it's going to save their own movie. You asked me what I liked.
All right.
So let's keep it to that.
All right.
I like that sequence. I liked at least trying to have the inclusion of Flash the way they did initially. I didn't like the clip that that Diana plays back. I liked that, how that was comic based there. Certain little things sparse throughout the movie showed somebody in the production of this movie knew where this came from.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, the deep down 5-year-old inside me wants to hold on to those parts, but I know as the man I am now, no, it doesn't save the movie. Was I entertained? Mostly. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to sit here for as long as we've been here in front of the camera and knock it for everything that I know you could have gotten it. That's really the thing that it doesn't make me angry at the movie. It just kind of makes me, like you said, sad at it. Like, you could have gotten it right if you just changed these little things throughout, and the movie would have been so much better for it. But they didn't go there.
Let's make Clark, for starters, actually care about humanity and not just go through the motions to make himself look like he's not a bad guy.
Yeah, that's not Superman.
No.
That is not Superman in the slightest. I don't feel why Wonder Woman's getting back into things other than the one line at the end about, oh, well, mankind made a world that I didn't feel like fighting for, and it's like, Gal Gadot has said that in interviews about Wonder Woman. No, actually, she does pronounce the T. I learned that this week. She doesn't have enough motivation for me to care about her, like you said.
Yeah.
Alfred's good, but he's not really pushing things like he would in a solo Batman movie, so I'm not going to push that
I feel like a lot of these things are really more like they could have been good, but there was way too much they tried to shove into this movie, and so there wasn't the time to elaborate upon any of them.
Like, some people are going to complain, oh, there's too much setup for Justice League. I almost complain there's not enough set up for Justice League, and they just squandered the time they had for this movie.
There's too much setup for Justice League in one movie trying to set it up for Justice League.
Right, because they're trying to take the shortcut.
This needed to be spread out across several films, but they were trying to play catch up with Marvel, who had already done that.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you see the sloppiness as a result of rushing? Abso-freaking-lutely. You see the results of rushing here. Because you can't run from it. And it's obvious there. The tease of Darkseid at the end, one, we never mention him by name.
Yeah.
We never see him. We never see anything from Apocalypse.
We just see this Omega symbol in the movie.
Which has no reason to be there in Bruce's imagination.
He doesn't even question it. He never questions, what was this?
What was the symbolism?
What were these flying things? There's no question.
Like, because Luthor being there, rotting in his cell, making some noises about something's coming, has nowhere near the amount of weight that it was to see Thanos at the end of Avengers. Because even then, when you didn't know he was coming, there's a weight there to it. And I'm almost willing to bet that they were considering showing Darkseid in a similar manner, but they were like, but Marvel did that, and we don't want to do what Marvel did, so we're just not going to do it.
So
So it just feels cheap.
So then, is this Lex Luthor stole 40 cakes terrible?
Yes. Lex Luthor stole...
That's as much as 4 tens.
And that's terrible. Because that's the thing, like, it's just like that because Lex Luthor stole 40 cakes because he's Lex Luthor. There's no background to why, oh, my father, ruined my birthday parties growing up, and that's why I hate cake. See, that's character development. But we don't get any of that here. We have, like, 1 or 2 lines about his father early on, and then he just hates Superman. Just because. Like, you're spouting things at me that are philosophical, but I'm like, no, come on, like, what's the nitty-gritty? Get into it.
The nitty-gritty is just that he hates Superman.
Because he's supposed to hate Superman.
And that's as much as 10 mans, and that's terrible.
So yeah, I will at least say the movie's worth the watch the one time. When you're not completely convinced that you know everything about this movie, you will at least be able to get through the one time and be like, okay, I watched that, and now I never have to pay for this again.
I don't know. I think if you're just going into it hoping for a well-structured film...
Oh, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that.
Then don't watch this movie, because I thought it was a poorly structured terrible
the only
excuse
thing
as cinema.
The only hope I can push towards the future is that if there is anybody with half a brain at Warner Brothers right now, they've seen, like, it's what, like a 35 on Rotten Tomatoes right now?
Something like 33 maybe?
Somewhere in the low 30s right now. You guys haven't started just yet filming Justice League. Do what Disney did, do what Star Wars did, receive the feedback you're getting, take some time off before starting to film, do some friggin' rewrites here, really get to the core of what these characters are supposed to be, stop having your heads up your butts about making them dark and gritty and grounded, and just go back to what people like about the characters.
Yeah.
Because people like colorful characters. That's why your friggin' television division is blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go back to what makes these characters characters, what's making them likable, what makes kids want to be them. It's not just the explosions, it's not just a big fight. A big fight for no reason is just a big fight. I could watch Clash of the Titans for that. No, this I want to see characters I care about.
I participated in a fight that was filmed for like 15 minutes or more, and that is literally all it was, and it had no storyline attached to it, and that was fine for what it needed to be. But Batman v Superman most definitely is not the 1-year anniversary of that guy with the glasses. These are like two monstrously different things. Why don't you understand this, Warner?
Yeah, because now we have to, I guess to round this out, we've been using the moniker ever since we found out all these other things were getting stuck in. They're not quite Justice League. Does it live up to the not quite Justice League name? Yes, and then some other things. It's also not quite Death of Superman and not quite The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
It's not quite everything. It's not quite a good movie. Let's put it that way. That's actually
I think
fair
it's
enough.
several not quites a good movie.
Is it 40 not quites?
It's 40 not quites, and that's terrible.
And that's terrible.
That's terrible.
So I guess that's all of our thoughts on Batman v Superman. Go at your own discretion. It's out as of tomorrow because we're filming this on Thursday night because we saw an early showing. Buyer be warned, I guess.
Be very warned, yeah.
So yes, thank you guys for sitting here for probably as long as the movie now, listening to us. You can always find us over on Twitter and talk to us about what you guys thought of it. But yeah, my mouth's going kind of dry.
Alright, that's it. Have a good one, guys. Be warned.
Be warned.